Right, shalom, shalom. It's Brother YAHAWAH once again with another lesson. First and foremost, we're going to give all praise, honor, and glory to YAHAWAH, Bahashem, YAHAWASHI, Bahashem, Bakaha Kodash. That's all praises to the Heavenly Father and His Son's name, who the world, ignorant of the cause, Jesus Christ, real name in the Hebrew, YAHAWASHI. Also want to give praise, honor, and glory to the Holy Spirit as well, which is the force that makes this edification be possible. I also want to say shalom to all the sincere-hearted Akim and Aquathis, make your bodies a living sacrifice on a daily basis. And I also want to give double honors to my elders who taught me this truth. Right. So I just want to briefly touch into, us continually having this hope of the gospel, in the forefront of our minds, because as we see, as we're living in the last days, in Esau's kingdom, Lord willing, will be part of that elect number. We're going to have to go through, let me just grab this real quick. We're going to have to go through some dark times, man. This is Daniel chapter 12:1. He says, the title says the time of the end. It says, and at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince was standing for the children of thy people. And there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time. And at that time, thy people, and who's the Lord's people, the Israelites, and right now, the elect of the nation of Israel, starting with 144,000, a large multitude that will be delivered. He says, and at that time, thy people shall be delivered, every one that shall be found written in the book. So the key point is that he says that there's going to be a time of trouble, such as never was since there's a nation, right? And in order to, stay on track in this truth, in order to continue to fight and push, we're going to have to keep, these prophecies, the promises of these prophecies in the forefront of our minds. It's just similar to, to if you were, at a job. The only reason why you're still working there is because you know that you're going to get paid. you know that your boss is going to come through and, come through with that paycheck every first or the fifth or 15th or every Friday, however that system is set up, but we are dealing with the power that has a track record of making good on every single word that he said, right? So this is Numbers chapter 23:19. He says, YAHAWAH is not a man that he should lie. See that? And YAHAWAH has promised the nation of Israel. Well, he's promised everyone something. He's either promised destruction or salvation, right? So he says, YAHAWAH is not a man that he should lie, neither the son of man that he should repent. That he hath he said, and shall he not do it? Or hath he spoken, and shall he not make it good? See that? So the Lord is not a man that he should lie. Every threat and every promise that he has carried out, has stated, has prophesied of, or told us that was going to come to pass, guess what? It has come to pass in this time, right? And we're living in that time to where Daniel 12:1 is about to be in full effect, as we see how Esau, Edom, so-called white man, is moving in these last days with his desperate, sloppy attempts, to basically cause the masses to, conform to his way of life, to conform to his ideologies, and to ultimately bow the knee unto him. Give your spirits, give your souls over to Satan, man, because this is Satan's kingdom, right? And as we see, these things progressing, the only way how we're going to basically stay on track, and finish into the very end is if we keep the promises, the hope of the gospel within the forefront of our minds. This is what keeps us going, man. This is the motivation, this is what motivates me to get out of bed every morning, is knowing what's on the other side. Matter of fact, let me grab this real quick, because if we weren't promised anything in these scriptures, it will make everything vain. What's the purpose of you even living? But our whole life, the way how you sincere brothers and sisters conduct yourselves, you conduct your conversation in a fashion that basically is acceptable unto the promise that's ahead of you. So this is Philippians chapter 3 and verse 13. He says, brethren, I count not myself to have apprehended. So Paul is saying, listen, I haven't apprehended that promise yet. But he says, but this one thing I do, forgetting those things which are behind and reaching forth unto those things which are before. says, I press toward the mark for the prize. See that, for the prize. And what's that prize? The promise, man. You being preserved from the said perils, right? You being delivered from destruction, and the Lord, giving you those glorified bodies. You, if you're part of the 144,000, you're fighting right next alongside of YAHAWASHI, and then you're gonna be placed back in your land with full supreme authority, man. That's the mark that we are pressing for, man. That's the prize that we're pressing for. That's the promise. And once again, if the Lord did not give us these promises, we're living in vain. We're all messed up. We're all screwed. But that's why I open up with Numbers chapter 23 and 19, that the Lord is not a man that he should lie. So the Lord promised us something, and it's going to come to pass, man. Right. So as we, go through these double straights here in these last days, we have to keep this in the forefront of your mind, whether you're thrown in FEMA camp, whether you're in the midst of the wilderness or wherever, don't have any clothes, it may be cold and rainy. You got to keep those promises on the forefront of your mind. He says, I press toward the mark of the prize of the high calling. See that this is a high calling that we're in, man. The Lord did not call, 2/3 of our people into this, man. Not in its fullness. We understand that there are some who crept in unawares, and they're going to ultimately be destroyed. But this particular calling is that ordained calling for you to be saved, man. So, and this is what we're pressing towards. He says, I press toward the mark for the prize of the high calling of Yahawah in Hamashiach YAHAWASHI. See that? And that's what we're hoping for, man. And the Lord, let me grab this real quick. With the Lord waking you up to this knowledge, truth, and understanding, it was not in vain, right? It was not in vain. The very fact that you were listening to this, and you're clothed in your right mind in the truth. This is, praise Yahawah Bashmawashah for it, man. Right? Because he didn't have to do it. This is Isaiah 45 and 19. He says, I have not spoken in secret in a dark place of the earth. And the Lord has not spoken in secret, man. He has spoken openly, man. All right. He says, I said not unto the seed of Jacob. And who's the seed of Jacob? Us, the Israelites, so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. He says, I said not unto the seed of Jacob, seek ye me in vain. See that? He did not tell us to seek him in vain. Right? He has called us into a high calling. That high calling being, you pressing toward that mark, with the promises that the gospel in Isaiah 61 and Luke chapter 4 entails, man. All right, supreme rulership. And the Lord did not call us into him to seek him in vain, man. It's not a vain thing. It's not, a frivolous thing that you have been called into this arena of truth, man. He says, I said not unto the seed of Jacob, seek ye me in vain. I, Yahawah, speak righteousness. I declare things that are right. Let's see what the NLT says. It says, I publicly proclaim bold promises. I do not whisper obscurities in some dark corner. I would not have told the people of Israel to seek me if I could not be found. And how is the Lord found, man? Through his men that he has set up, right? This is why he says in Isaiah chapter 30 that your teachers shall not be hidden anymore. All right, he says, and I, Yahawah, speak only what is true and declare only what is right. Exactly, man. Now let's go over here to the prophet and King David. This is Isaiah. It's like it. This is Psalm chapter 145 and verse 11. He says, they shall speak of the glory of thy kingdom and talk of thy power. And see, this is David, man. This was David basically telling, prophesying, speaking about what this generation will be doing. The generation of the first fruits, man, the 144,000 and the elect. All right, well, particularly the 144,000. Right, we're gonna be speaking of the glory of that kingdom and talking of his power. Why is that? Because if you speak about something, all right, what does that do? That basically segments whatever you're speaking about inside the very fibers of your mind, inside the very fibers of your brain. Right. So the Lord, this is why he tells us in the book of Hebrews to don't forsake the assembly, so we should be daily exhorting and calling one another. Why? Because when we speak to one another, you know, daily on a daily basis about, you know, the glory of the kingdom and talking of his power, what does that do for us? That strengthens us. And that basically makes us more emboldened in these promises that he has promised unto us, man. So when all hell does break loose, right, we have something to cling on to. See, the 2/3 of our people and the other nations, they have literally no hope, man. They have nothing to cling on to. Their only hope is the nation of Edom. Their only hope is that America will return back into normal. But anyone with their right mind can simply see that this place is never going to return back to normal. The Lord has smitten this place with the blow of an enemy for it to never rise again. So your only best bet is to put your faith into this promise right here, man, if you're so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native American. So he says, they shall speak of the glory of thy kingdom and talk of thy power, to make known to the sons of men his mighty acts, right? Such as the, you know, the flood, you know, the deliverance in the time of Egypt, you know, and even going into what's happening right now. Him waking up the 12 tribes. That's a mighty act, man. Consider the first state that we were in, right? Ezekiel chapter 37, man, we were dry bones. But now we're making known to the sons of men his mighty acts, right? We're no longer calling ourselves Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. Now we're calling ourselves Israelites, man, from whatever respective tribe you're from. He says to make known to the sons of men his mighty acts and the glorious majesty of his kingdom. And we're going to be able to partake into that, man. That's a promise. All right. He says, thy kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and thy dominion endureth throughout all generations. And this is what we should be speaking about, man. This is what we should be thinking about. Let me grab this in Philippians chapter 4. Verse 8. I'm going to start at verse 6. He says, be careful for nothing. What does that mean, be careful for nothing? Let's look at it in NLT. It says, don't worry about anything. See that? Don't worry about anything. And, you know, if you was to, you know, just watch the news, you know, Fox and, you know, whatever news station is, whatever media source or even social media, you know, without filtering through the scriptures and seeing what's going on, it will constantly have you in a state of worry, of panic, of fearfulness, of anxiety, right? But with these scriptures, it comforts us, man. This is why some brothers and, you know, sisters just can't get enough of this word. You listening to it all day, you talking about it, you reading about it, you know, you're thinking about it. Why? Because this is our comfort. This is our hope. We were expecting to receive something at the end of this, man. The Lord is not unrighteous. Let me grab this real quick. Hebrews 6. And once again, this is directed to those of you who are sincere in this thing, those of you who are fully persuaded. If you're not fully persuaded, this does not apply to you. And also, if you're a heathen, this does not apply to you. All right, this is Hebrews chapter 6, verse 10. I'm gonna start at verse 9. He says, but beloved, we are persuaded better things of you, and things that accompany salvation. What accompanies salvation? All right, when you go into that word accompany, it basically means it's tied together with. What's tied together with salvation? The promises, everything that he promised Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and what their seed was to inherit, right? The kingdom, the world, dominion, power, glorified bodies, ruling with YAHAWASHI, being priests and kings upon the earth. Those are things that accompany you being delivered from Babylon the Great. So he says, but beloved, we are persuaded better things of you, and things that accompany salvation through thus, though we thus speak. For Yahweh is not unrighteous to forget your work and labor of love. So, and call Allah Yahweh by Shem YAHAWASHI for that, man. He is not unrighteous to forget your work and labor of love, because man lays no charge to their minds to what the sincere men of the Lord go through on a daily basis in order to give you this word, man. They forget your work and labor of love, all right? But nothing escapes the sight of Yahweh and his angels, man. And for once again, for those of you who are sincere, this is extending down into you. You receiving the report, you believing the report, right? You praying, you're fasting, you doing things that get you built up in the spirit to prepare you, to meet your maker, prepare you to meet your husband. All right. Yahawah is not unrighteous to forget your work and labor of love, which you have showed toward his name. Right. So, and this is a cut on anyone who has thinks that they have been working, for the Lord, but those works weren't done in his name, man. Right? They weren't toward his name. Only YAHAWAH, YAHAWASHI will receive those works of the men and women who do things that please him in that name. It says, which you have showed toward his name, in that you have ministered to the saints and do minister. And what's that word minister mean? To serve. So Yahawah is not unrighteous to forget your service to his saints. You dedicating your life, your time, your money, your resources, your mind unto his saints, man, just to build them up, right? And also to build yourself up. The Lord is not going to forget that. And he is not a man that he should lie. So we can know that's going to come good, man. He's going to come through on that. So this is Philippians 4:6. Don't worry about anything. Instead, pray about everything. See that? We have to be constantly in prayer, man, in these days. If you know that your prayer life, if your prayer game isn't up to par, now's the time to get it up to par, man, before it's too late. Right? When you read Daniel chapter 6, when Daniel was persecuted by Darius, really he was conspired against. Darius didn't want to throw him into the lion's den, but Daniel was conspired against, some wicked men who saw him praying. The Bible made a recorded account that Daniel, when he prayed, when he was caught praying, it said that was a custom of his. It didn't say that he just started praying 3 times a day when the tribulation came. No, Daniel was making it was a habitual act in Daniel's life to be praying, 3 times a day, even before the tribulations came. So now's the time for you to start getting your prayer life, and fasting life, up to par before all this calamity happens, because it's going to be too late then, man. Now is the time to be built up. All right, it says, don't worry about anything. Instead, pray about everything. Tell Yahawah what you need and thank him for all he has done. Thank him for all he has done. Then you will experience Yahawah's peace, which exceeds anything we can understand. Yeah, because Yahawah says, peace I leave with you. Yahawah has left his men and women and children peace, man, that the world has no idea of what it feels like, man. Let me grab this in Isaiah. (26:3). It says, thou will keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on thee, because he trusteth in thee. So when we're going through, Jacob's trouble, and even before we go through Jacob's trouble, man, the Lord is going to keep your mind in perfect peace, no matter what your surroundings are looking like. Only if your mind is stayed on him. That word stayed basically means relying on, right? So if you're relying on the strength and power of YAHAWAH, he's going to keep you in perfect peace, right? Yes, you're still gonna, feel, some pressure. He told us we're gonna feel that pressure, man. We're entering into times to where the earth has never seen before, man. So of course you're gonna feel that pressure, but at the same time, while you're feeling that pressure, he's gonna keep you in perfect peace to where you don't lose your wits in, man. Isaiah 33:6 says that, let's grab that. It says, and wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability. Stability is going to keep you stable of thy times, and strength of salvation. The fear of Yahawah is his treasure. So wisdom and knowledge and strength and salvation is what's going to keep us stable, man. And having that healthy fear of YAHAWAH, man, that's what's going to keep us all together, while the world is just going to continue to be unraveled and falling apart. And this is a promise. These scriptures, listen, from cover to cover, packed filled with prophecies, packed filled with promises, man. right? And now's the time to where we're about to start tapping into those promises, man. You know, and like I said, us receiving this truth was one of the, major, factors of you, being qualified to receive of, those promises of salvation and things that accompany that. All right, so let's go back to Philippians. He says, then you will experience Yahweh's peace, which exceeds anything we can understand. His peace will guard your minds. See that? His peace will guard your minds, because there's going to be many things that's going to be trying to attack your mind. Your mind is about to be the most attacked thing, man, amidst, physical attacks. But your mind is going to be the most attacked thing, right? Spiritually and physically, man, because, when you read Ephesians chapter 6, it talks about how Satan, as throwing those fiery darts at you, man. Basically those little, mind bombs, if you will, throwing doubts, fearfulness. All right. But if you have Yahweh's peace, right, which is going to be granted unto his elect, those people who keep their mind stayed on him, he's going to guard your mind, man. He says his peace will guard your hearts and minds as you live in, see that, as you live in Hamashiach YAHAWASHI. He says, now, dear brothers and sisters, one final thing, fix your thoughts on what is true. And what's true? Let's grab this real quick. Because we live in a world where everything is false, man, where everything is subjectional. This is 2 Ezra 15:1. He says, speak thou in the ears of my people the words of prophecy, which I will put in thy mouth, saith Yahweh, and cause them to be written in paper, for they are faithful and true. See that? So these prophecies, these words of prophecies are faithful and true. And what's in those prophecies? Promises. Right? Going back to Philippians. And now, dear brothers and sisters, one final thing. Fix your thoughts on what is true and honorable and right and pure and lovely and admirable. Think about these. Salakia. Think about things that are excellent and worthy of praise. Keep putting into practice. Ooh, man. Keep putting into practice all you learned and received from me. See that? And now's the time, right? Where basically this is, once again, this isn't, we haven't even went into game day yet, man. Game day is Jacob's trouble. We're still in the off season. We're still in practice, man. Right? So once game day does come, that's the time when you start putting into practice everything that you're learning in practice, man. Right? See, the reason why the Lord is afflicting us with particular mind ailments, financial ailments, spouse, disagreements or whatnot, or children or whatever, right? It's for what? For you to learn, basically what your weak points are. So when game day does come, hopefully you would have been built up enough, and then you can put everything that you learn into practice then, man. So he says, keep putting into practice all you learn and receive from me, everything you heard from me and saw me doing, because we have examples, man. See, the Lord set this thing up beautifully. We're going into the worst time into history ever. But he didn't leave us out there hot and dry with no examples. We have so many examples in the scriptures, man. Have so many examples, good, bad, and ugly, of what to do and what not to do, man. And Apostle Paul was a beautiful example of how to abound and how to overcome and press toward that mark, of those promises. He suffered, shipwreck, I believe 3 times. His brother, was hungry, homeless, but yet all the while still praising and doing the work of YAHAWASHI, man. So he says, keep putting into practice all you learned and received from me, everything you heard from me and saw me doing. Then the power of peace, see that? The power of peace will be with you. And we are privileged to have a power, that has full control and full sway of everything, including peace. So if you have peace, it's because he gave it. It's because he gave it to you. All right. And if you don't have it, it's because he didn't give it to you. He took it away from you. This is John 3:27. Says, and John answered and said, a man can receive nothing except it be given him from heaven. And that includes peace, man. You cannot receive peace unless it was given unto you from heaven, man. But how can you receive peace, wisdom, and knowledge and understanding? You simply have to ask him for it in your petitions and your prayers. All right. So I didn't want to make this too long. You know, Lord willing, I'll just do a part 2 to this tomorrow, my lunch break or whatnot. You know, but, you know, like I said, man, we're living those days to where, you know, we got to have these promises at the forefront. This is basically our fuel, man. This is our gasoline, you know, to basically keep us driving, man. Because if it wasn't for these prophecies, hey, man, we would have been out of this game a long time ago. As soon as you came in, you would have been out, right? But you came, the Spirit led you in and showed you these promises for what? In the hopes that you continue to endure, you know? So with that, I hope you was edified. Till next time, Shalom.